Two enemy radar stations were destroyed by defense forces in temporarily occupied Crimea last night. This was reported by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. They were located in Jankoy. The day before, our defenders carried out a targeted strike on the enemy's logistics warehouse in the area of Novozlatopil and on a UAV command post in the area of Poltavka, both on the temporarily occupied territory of Zaporizhzhia region. The area where the occupiers' manpower was concentrated near Rodinske in Donetsk region also came under Ukrainian military strikes. In addition, an enemy command and observation post in Russia's Bryansk region was hit. The General Staff also reported that in Votkinsk, where Iskander, Oreshnik and Topol missiles are produced, a strike hit a production workshop. Let me remind you, the defense forces struck the plant with Flamingo missiles. 10 people were injured as a result of a combined enemy attack on Zaporizhzhia. The air raid alert in the city lasted for several hours in a row. As a result of the strike, residential buildings, shopping centers, parked cars nearby, and the building of one of the educational institutions were damaged. The children, who were in the shelter at the time, were not injured. How is the city recovering after the shelling? More on this in the report by Ina Hohoy.
Fires in apartments and a shopping center destroyed houses and cars. Last night, Zaporizhzhia suffered yet another enemy attack. The Russians launched a combined attack on the regional center using missiles and drones. As a result of the shelling, 10 people were injured, including an 8-year-old child. Residents say they heard the buzzing of Russian drones right above their homes. To protect themselves, they hid in corridors and shelters.
Shahed, it was clearly audible. It went into a dive. We were already in the shelter when we heard it. When they started flying en masse, I felt it. I told my daughter, let's go to the shelter. We went down 5 minutes later, impact.
In various districts of the city, about 100 apartment buildings and private houses were damaged by explosions. Windows were shattered in homes, facades and roofs were damaged, and fires broke out in some residences. In one of the high-rise buildings, the floor slab between the 4th and 5th floors was damaged by the destruction. There is hardly a single intact window or balcony left in this apartment building. The windows were also blown out in the apartment where Miss Yulia lives.
In one of our rooms, the window collapsed. The glass was blown straight inside, and the balcony is completely damaged. So it broke through the balcony unit, and now we don't have a window in the kitchen or the balconies, and the door was blown out. When it all happened, we were sleeping and woke up because of a strong explosion, and well, the walls started to crumble.
The owner of this home, 85-year-old Mrs. Vera, was hiding in the bathroom during the shelling. She says that's what saved her life. Rescuers came to inspect the pensioner's apartment. They want to make sure there are no emergency or dangerous structures in the home.
Yes, it fell out. It fell out.
Right.
Yes.
No, actually, here it is right here.
It's here, but the frame was torn out and the glass needs to be removed.
Well, come on, I'm already exhausted. I have so much work to do there. I can't clean up the glass.
The cleanup of the aftermath of the shelling lasted all day. Tents were set up in the courtyards of the damaged buildings where people could submit a request about damaged housing or receive humanitarian aid from volunteers.
Tarpaulin.
To cover the windows because it's very cold, and the wind too. We have to do something, and then we'll figure out how to put the windows back in because we can't go without windows now. During this massive attack, 2 shopping centers, a gas station building, and about a dozen private cars were also damaged in the city. Ina Hohoy, Iho Vorobi, Podrobitsi, Inter TV channel, United News Marathon.
Last night, the Russians attacked with zircon missiles, ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and attack drones. According to the Air Force, there were more than 400 targets in total. Air Defense Forces shot down or neutralized 2 out of 2 Zircon anti-ship missiles, 4 out of 11 Iskander-M ballistic missiles, 24 out of 24 Kh-101 cruise missiles, 2 out of 2 Kh-69 guided air missiles, as well as 374 out of 420 enemy drones of various types. Strikes were recorded at 32 locations, and at another 15, the debris of downed missiles fell. Today marks the 7th massive missile and drone attack this month, meaning that in terms of the number of such attacks, February has already matched January and December. This was noted in our broadcast by Yuri Inat, head of communications and command of the Air Force of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. He also emphasized the rather successful performance of our air defense.
As for combat operations, you can see that we have achieved a 100% success rate against cruise and aviation missiles. The Kh-101 and Kh-59 missiles were intercepted, fighter jets were involved, including Western ones. Today, our surface-to-air missile systems are also operating quite successfully in the sky. And as you know, both the fighter jets and our systems that target missiles need missiles for them, because with such intensity of attacks, of course, there is consumption. And that is why the country's leadership constantly appeals to our partners to replenish these stocks.
The Russians shelled the Korabelny district of Kherson twice today. According to regional authorities, a 62-year-old woman was killed as a result of the attacks. An elderly man was wounded. He is in the hospital. In the morning, the Russians attacked the Kramatorsk community with artillery. According to the city council, the Russian army deliberately struck the private sector. As a result, 2 people were wounded and hospitalized. 6 households were damaged. The Russians also shelled Orikhiv in the Zaporizhzhia region. The regional authorities reported that as a result of the attack, a 71-year-old man was wounded and hospitalized. 1,000 bodies of the deceased have been returned to Ukraine. According to the coordination headquarters, based on preliminary information from the Russian side, they may belong to Ukrainian defenders. Now, specialists will work on identifying the repatriated deceased. A bilateral meeting between the Ukrainian and American delegations is ongoing in Geneva. This was reported by NSDC Secretary Rustem Umerov. Representing the United States are Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. On the Ukrainian side, in addition to Umerov, are David Arakamia, Oleksiy Sobolyev, and Darina Marchak. The meeting is focused on developing mechanisms for economic support and the recovery of Ukraine, tools for attracting investment, and long-term cooperation. They are also discussing preparations for the next round of trilateral negotiations involving the Russian side. Another important area is the humanitarian track and the issue of possible exchanges. Since the beginning of the year, Ukraine has launched the state program Health Screening 40+. It provides for free examinations for the early detection of diseases. In Mykolaiv, this screening can already be done at 6 medical institutions, and more than 30 patients have taken advantage of this opportunity. Yelizaveta Krotik found out how it all works.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I scheduled some blood tests with you. Give me the container and then tell me what to do next.
Lyudmila takes care of her health, so when the opportunity arose to undergo a comprehensive examination, she didn't hesitate for long. For her, it will be free of charge. The state covers the cost of the screening up to 2,000 hryvnias.
In general, our family doctor also gives us a referral, and we actually did almost all these tests at another laboratory, not on site, not at the clinic, free of charge. Well, to be honest, I really do think that those 2,000 would very easily be spent in a very short amount of time. Because if you go and do the glycated hemoglobin and cholesterol tests entirely on your own, out of your own pocket, you will find it is not exactly what anyone would call cheap or budget-friendly. All the more so, it is simply completely unaffordable for most pensioners who are currently living on a very limited fixed income.
As part of the program, Ukrainians aged 40 and over can check key indicators, from blood sugar levels to heart function.
I'm particularly interested in glycated hemoglobin levels, also known as A1C. Hemoglobin levels as a primary concern, cholesterol profiles, and all of those other health indicators and biomarkers. And of course, to check how your heart is doing, how your engine is working, to get an ECG.
The examination takes place in several stages, from taking tests to consulting a doctor. In this medical facility, 10 patients have already used the service.
On one day, patients come in and have their tests done. Within 72 hours, the person is scheduled for a doctor's appointment. The doctor consults with the patient for 60 minutes, enters all the test results and diagnostic reports into the system, interprets them, provides recommendations, and if necessary, refers the patient to a specialist or orders additional tests.
Volodymyr turned to doctors for the first time in a long while and immediately received a clear action plan.
I personally came to the local medical clinic, specifically to this dedicated assistance center, and the specialist working there provided me with an incredibly thorough, highly qualified, and exceptionally professional consultation regarding my health. According to this plan, just like with an individual plan, I will undergo this examination.
And tell me, please, have you ever done this before just for yourself?
Not such a comprehensive one, no.
And why not?
Well, you know, as they say, you don't always get around to taking care of your own health. but it needs to be done.
Doctors explain that the main thing is not just to diagnose, but to detect dangerous diseases at an early stage. After all, it is after 40 that the risks of developing chronic diseases increase significantly, and often everything happens without any obvious symptoms.
The National Health Screening 40 Plus is a government program aimed at the early detection of cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, and mental disorders. Screening helps to adjust a person's lifestyle. Lifestyle modification, including nutrition, is important to prevent the progression of these diseases and also to protect a person from the complications they may cause.
In Mykolaiv, you can undergo screening at 6 medical institutions. More than 30 patients have already taken advantage of the program, and the number of interested patients is growing. Elizaveta Krotik, Pavlo Tkachenko, Details TV channel Inter Marathon Only News.
Hungary violated European Union law by not renewing the license of the independent radio station Klub Radio. This was the decision of the EU court. Klub Radio ceased broadcasting in February 2021 after 19 years of operation. Guests on the station's broadcasts often criticize the government's policies. However, the official reason given by the Hungarian Media Council for rejecting the license renewal application was that the radio station allegedly violated the obligation to submit monthly reports on broadcasting quotas twice. Since then, Klub Radio has operated only online. In 2022, the European Commission filed a lawsuit with the EU court over Hungary's failure to fulfill its obligations. In its decision of February 26, the EU court upheld most of the European Commission's complaints and found that Hungary had failed to fulfill its obligations under European Union law. Let me remind you, EU leaders have long accused Viktor Orban's government of restricting media freedom and other liberties. However, the Hungarian government denies this. Artificial intelligence will never be able to convey faith. With this warning, Pope Leo XIV addressed the priests of the Roman diocese. In particular, he urged them not to prepare sermons with the help of AI. During the meeting with the clergy, the pontiff answered questions about spiritual guidance, pastoral work, and the use of the internet. Leo XIV compared the brain to muscles. He said that if you don't use them, they atrophy. The Pope emphasized that a true sermon is a process of transmitting faith, and artificial intelligence is incapable of this. He also warned against the deception of social networks and the temptation to collect likes and followers on TikTok. If priests do not convey the message of Jesus Christ, they should carefully and humbly reflect on who they are and what they are doing, the pontiff added. Separately, Leo XIII emphasized the importance of